Welcome to the ADOS Empowered podcast. This is the show where collision repair professionals, calibration techs, insurers, and OEMs come together to stay ahead of the curve. Each episode, we'll dive into the latest in advanced driver assistance systems, exploring emerging technologies, calibration best practices, and evolving industry standards. Whether you're in the shop, in the field, or in the boardroom, this is the go-to source for thought leadership, collaboration, and real-world insights to drive safer and more efficient repairs. Let's get empowered together. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the ADOS Empowered podcast. I'm your host, Joel Adcock. I work on the partnerships team here at Rev, and I am joined today by a good friend of mine, Jason Bartanen. Jason, welcome. Glad to have you on the show today, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me, Joel. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. If for those of you out there that have not subscribed to the podcast yet, you can find it out on your favorite podcast channels, streaming services between Spotify, Apple, all the major popular streaming channels, as well as there'll be a link in the recording here where you can subscribe to the podcast and review this one and other ones that we've recorded in the past. But really excited today. I've known Jason for a few years. He has got a tremendous amount of experience in the collision repair space. I'm really excited to kind of continue the conversations that we've had over the last couple of years and even recently with Jason's new venture that he just recently launched. I'm excited to talk about that. I'm also excited to talk a little bit about last week being able to, for myself, observe the national championships for SkillsUSA. I would recommend for anybody who's not involved to get involved, to get some sort of support, whether you're on a localized level, on a state level, or a national level. It is an unbelievably eye-opening experience that I was not prepared for, and I walked away completely fired up, pumped up, whatever you want to call it, with doubling down on my efforts to continue to drive folks into the trades. I don't know how else better to say it. Jason, I'm certain you can better facilitate sort of my feelings here with this, but again, I want to say thank you for allowing me to be part of that last week. I came away just thoroughly impressed with the entire event, the entire process. Obviously, the talent of the students from both the high school level and the tech school level. I don't have enough good things to say about it. Would love to hear how you got involved with that because you've got some skin in the game, so to speak, and we'll kind of kick it off from there. So I would love to get your thoughts on it, how long you've been kind of involved with the SkillsUSA site, sir.
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, thank you too for coming last week. We had added collision repair diagnostics to our technical standards a few years ago, and up until you showed up, I've been unable to get a lot of support from that segment of the industry. So thank you for being there, and thank you also for your follow up and wanting to get more involved for next year and really keeping the contest updated and fresh and aligned with where we're heading in the industry. I think that's incredibly important that we are making sure that the skills that we are testing at the national competition are representative of tasks that the technicians are going to be doing when they get out into the industry. But that being said, my journey with SkillsUSA started back when SkillsUSA was VICA, the Vocational Industrial Clubs of America, which I was a member of back when I was in high school. My dad started a chapter in O'Connell, Wisconsin, where I grew up back in the early 80s. And then when I got into high school, I joined VICA and competed in the, at the time, auto body competition. And at the time, auto body was straightening fenders as well as painting. So we did both refinishing and collision repair, unlike today where we've now got the two contests separated. And I was fortunate enough to win a few Wisconsin state championships and compete at the national level and get to experience SkillsUSA from the perspective of a student participant and meet people from all across the country that my peers, my high school peers and college peers and meet other people from other disciplines, because Skills USA is so much more than just collision repair and automotive. It's all the technical trades. There are 114 different competitions
Yeah.
this year at the Skills USA National Leadership and Skills Conference, representing high school, post-secondary, college students, as well as some middle school programs as well, and some leadership events. And it's just an incredible organization. I've seen so many success stories come from students that were former Skills USA attendees. Not they don't have to win a state championship or go compete at the national level. Just being involved in Skills USA has always been something I've looked for on people's resumes to put them on the top of the list. Is like, hey, we want to talk more to this individual because Skills USA is part of it. And so I competed in high school. I did a little judging when I was in college. I got the judge at the state competition. And then when I started with ICAR in 1996, the segment leader for the welding portion of the collision repair technology competition was cycling off. He was heading towards retirement, and they're looking for somebody to step in and kind of lead the charge in that particular segment, one of several segments for collision repair. And so I assumed that role about 28 years ago, and was the segment leader for welding at the time. We eventually changed the name to Attachment Methods, and I continued to lead those efforts for a number of years. And then when Teresa Bolton, formerly and kind of part-time yet with ASE, who was our national tech chair at the time, when she decided to step down, I stepped into her role as the tech chair for the collision repair technology competition. And now I'm blessed with the ability to welcome a bunch, 58 versions of myself, younger versions of myself this year to the
Yeah.
competition, and 63 refinishing competitors this year. It's an incredible organization. When people say, "Well, what is Skills USA?" The easiest thing for me to say is like it's like FFA but for technical trades and industries, because that kind of correlates. A lot of people know
Yeah.
what FFA is. Yeah, so get involved with your schools. If your school doesn't have a chapter and you're on an advisor committee, get involved and encourage them to create a chapter, support their contestants and their students with training and education and getting them ready for competition if they're going to compete at a state level. And then certainly if they're fortunate enough to be a state winner, be available to support them and prepare them for the national competition. And a lot of states struggle in getting volunteers, whether it's judges or just on the committee from a state level, just organizing as well. So if you want to get involved with Skills USA at a state level, you reach out to your Skills USA state director. I'm happy to direct anyone that needs to how to get there. But on the Skills USA, there's a list of all the state directors, and that's the best path to get directly to the collision repair or refinishing competition, or the collision damage appraisal competition. We also now have a collision damage appraisal competition. So we went from one competition to now 3 competitions over the past 15 years or so.
You've got years of experience as being part of this. Obviously, I came to it with, I would say, a fresh set of eyes, but completely naive to the level of process and professionalism that exists from the organization, and like I said, from the students themselves and their technical ability. And I think, the thing that we talked about while we were there was, it's great to have the kids that are at the national level, and you've got the folks that support, get the Mike Rose that are there doing the keynote speaking and talking about the benefits of, uh, I want to say, bypassing like a 4-year education. But there are so many good opportunities for folks, not just in the automotive space, but obviously across all the disciplines that were represented there. It's like, how do you breach into that layer down to kids that are trying to collect themselves on what's next after, let's say, just high school. Like, where do they go? Maybe they like to work with their hands, but they just haven't necessarily been exposed to a certain discipline that piques their interest. Or maybe their school just isn't supported in a way that, from an automotive side, where they've got tools or somebody that's being able to support them on potentially a journey down that path. And part of like what you're doing now with Collision Pro Assist, I know doesn't necessarily reach all the way down into like the high school level, but as there's always concerns of shortages of technicians, depending on who you talk to. I think there's two sides of that equation in that story. Of, yes, there is maybe a shortage of technicians, and or maybe our definition of like what a shortage actually is shortage of qualified or resourceful technicians is maybe the better way to say it. And so you recently launched Collision Pro Assist, which you've got, again, tons of experience. As you like to say, you've got technician blood. What was kind of the genesis, or what was the aha moment here for you to launch this? And we'll explain more of like where folks can find some more information on this as we go throughout the episode. But
Yeah.
kind of give us the backstory and the passion there that you've got, and then obviously what Collision Pro Assist will offer in terms of assistance and resources for technicians that are out there.
Yeah, so really, I think Collision Pro Assist is kind of the culmination of my 25 plus nearly 30 years in the from a professional standpoint in the industry. My grandfather opened a body shop in 1939 in Ishpeming, Michigan. That shop is still run today by two of my cousins. My uncle ran it for years, and my cousins are kind of run the show today and have made a successful living, working in the industry. And my dad was my high school automotive teacher, and we had a garage in the summertime that we worked on cars, just kind of part-time deer hits and, Wisconsin rust and things of that nature. That was kind of my first experience in the collision repair industry. But when I talk about my true industry experience, I think it really starts with my going back to 1996 when I started with iCar as a technical writer, developing curriculum for them. Again, having that, again, I've never been a day-to-day technician. I was a painter's helper while I was in college, and I've been around cars and automotive people my entire life. But I knew early on that I wasn't going to work on cars on a daily basis. But like I said, I've had that technician blood in me. Like I
Mhm.
think I like to think that I think like a technician. That we're kind of cut from the same cloth. I'm not a sport coat khaki wearing kind of person, even though I've had to do that throughout my career. Like my comfort level is, jeans and a t-shirt and talking cars and, and enjoying the outdoors and stuff like a lot of automotive people do. And I've looked at the technicians, and again, I was with iCar for 23 years. I was with Collision Hub for another 6 years after that. And I I I've always felt like the technicians, the men and women that work on cars for a living, like the reason that I've had a career, the reason that you've got a career, the reason that every
Mhm.
shop owner out there has a shop are because of the technicians. Without the technicians, there is no collision repair industry.
Yep.
Yeah, but yet they're the least supported group of individuals that are out there. They don't get to go to trade shows and listen to speakers and get that incredible information from a Mike Anderson or from a Ford or from a 3M or from all these fantastic speakers that are out there. They don't get to experience that. They don't get a chance to talk to the people that build the tools and equipment and products that they use. And our owners and managers do a great job of like, going to those things and finding, a great deal on this new equipment. And then we bring the equipment back to the shop and the technician never really gets formally trained on it, doesn't work properly. It sits in the corner. Now the shop's out a bunch of money. The technician goes, that equipment's junk. That the equipment manufacturer's now got a black eye in the eyes of that particular shop and that, technician. And that doesn't really help anybody. And I think so. We don't do a very good job of supporting the technicians and really giving them the tools that they need to be successful, both inside the shop and outside the shop.
Yep.
And throughout my iCar career, we were developing curriculum kind of for the entire industry. And then when I went to Collision Hub, we got a little bit more focused. We focused more on the shops and helping, shop A and shop B and shop C. And that afforded me the opportunity to work more closely with technicians and kind of reinforced my belief that we weren't doing enough for them, because I
Mhm.
continue to see that we still weren't doing enough for them. And so now Collision Pro Assist is really, my title, the title I gave myself is Chief Technician Advocate, because I want to be an advocate for the technician, from my seat here as well as out in the industry when I'm talking to tool equipment product makers, when I'm talking to owners and managers, when I'm talking to vehicle manufacturers and other inter-industry personnel that are out there. Like, I want to be an advocate for the technician. I want to be a voice for the technician. And you mentioned the technician shortage. So regardless of how you feel about the technician shortage, we have a problem attracting technicians to our industry.
Mhm.
And we ourselves have made the industry not that attractive by belittling one another on social
Yes.
media, by not providing support, by not giving our technicians the tools to support them in the shop, in their job. Technicians will go down the road for, a nickel an hour more, because they think it's going to get better support, but we just don't do enough to support them. And Collision Pro Assist is designed to support technicians and thereby support the shops that employ those technicians and thereby support the vehicle owners, because their cars are getting repaired properly, because the technicians have the information, they know how to use the tools and the equipment and the procedures. They understand all those processes, and ultimately it helps repair vehicles more properly. And that's what Collision Pro Assist is about, is really helping the technician and giving them the information and knowledge and access to contacts that they need, that they've never had access to before.
So there's, again, depending on who you talk to, number of rooftops collision repair across the US, 25, 30,000 roughly. Some shops have one tech, some have 8, 9, 10 techs, depending on size and volume. On average, there's probably 3 to 4 techs. I think if you had to pinpoint a number of technicians uh, at a shop, getting to each one of those is going to be a difficult task. Some need, maybe a little bit less help than others because of their experience. But for the ones that are, coming up through the ranks, trying to learn, trying to connect on the right resources,
Yep.
it's no small feat to do it yourself. So you developed a channel through, and if I apologize if I kind of don't say this correctly, but through a Discord.
Yep.
Showing my age here as far as like what Discord is, but walk us through a little bit about sort of the idea of why Discord,
Yep.
and what can a tech benefit by using the Discord platform. It's sort of a crowdsourced way to support from tech to tech, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah.
Among other
So
things.
yeah. So the goal is in Backbase. So let me give you the Backbase story first. So kind of what
Yeah.
brings me around Backbase. So I think about a traditional collision repair technician. I'm at the vehicle and I've got a problem, right? Whether that's I don't know where to section this rail, I don't know if I can repair this rail, I don't know how to use this piece of equipment, or why is my welder not working the way it's supposed to be working? Like it's always worked before, right? What are the issues? So traditionally, when I had a problem in the shop, I'd turn over, I go like, hey, Joel, can you come over here and take a look at this for me? And then you come over and you offer your expert insight into it, right? And at best, I think that technicians in that situation gets incomplete information.
Because I've got my badge on, my professional badge of like I've got the
Exactly.
experience, right?
Or I turn to social media and I post a question on a social media channel, and then I get at best incomplete information. Chances are I'm going to get a bunch of bad information, and
Yeah.
I'm going to get my butt kicked out of as well, because
Yeah.
people are just going to be, you shouldn't be working on cars, you don't know what you're doing. Like that doesn't help anything. That doesn't
Yeah.
help. That
I,
doesn't help the technician. And now the next time I got a question, I'll be damned if I want to go ask somebody on social media. And the last time I asked Joel a question and didn't get what he needs. So now I'm kind of left on my own. So what Back Bay is rather than ask a group of social media experts, I have compiled and I'm continuing to compile a host of subject matter experts from tool, equipment, product makers, vehicle makers, myself, under other recognized industry subject matter experts that are waiting virtually in the back bay of your shop, in everybody's shop. And I've launched that in Discord. And what Discord, I chose Discord for a number of different reasons. Um, One, the organization of it, as opposed to putting everything into a website that I got to lay out and maintain and design, time consuming task. Social media is not the best place for it. Again, it's just, it's hard to find information in there. Discord allows me to organize it into different servers or into different channels within the Backbase server, so that I can have an area for Ford and GM and 3M and ProSpot and Fuser and whomever else, and Rev ADAS and associations and publications. So what the information that I need is easily organized. I can find it by doing a search for, if I'm looking for information on a Camry, I can just search for Camry, and anytime Camry shows up, it's in there. Or I can go and I can ask a specific question in a channel. So it helps me from a flexibility, from an organization standpoint, pays a lot of dividends. The other thing it allows me to do is create some membership tiers, so I can offer different options from a pricing standpoint. So if I'm just looking to kind of get general information, Back Bay Pass is an opportunity for me to just go there and see what people are talking about. And with Back Bay Pass, kind of tying it back to our SkillsUSA conversation, I'm going to give every high school and college instructor in the country that wants it free access to Back Bay, so that they can use as an additional learning resource in their classroom. I know what a challenge it is for schools to get funding and to get tools and equipment and information. And again, with my dad being a former educator and my passion for education, my passion for youth development, I want to give schools another resource that they can use at no cost. I don't want them to pay for it. They pay for enough stuff as it is already, and I want to help the teachers as well. The other thing I did last week at Skills USA is I gave all of our college contestants 1 year access to it. So for post-secondary students,
Nice.
I want to give them 1 year access, and not just the Skills USA competitors, but I'm going to be working with the Collision Repair Education Foundation and CREF, and hopefully coordinating through them to give students that are in college 1 year access to Back Bay Pass, so that they too can use it as a resource. And when they get into the industry, if they want to get a subscription, great. If they don't want to get a subscription, that tells me that I've got work to do yet, that it's not the value that it needs to be yet, and that we need to do some improvements. So it gives me a good barometer of that as well. So another reason I chose Discord is I'm trying to target a younger demographic.
Mhm.
I recognize that a lot of our technicians aren't going to change. They're not going to modify their thinking. They're going to continue to do things the way they've always done it. And hopefully they retire soon and move on their way. But hopefully the next generation of technicians that are coming through, that have some humility, that recognize that they don't know everything, or that want answers, want to do things properly. I'm targeting them. So I'm really trying to target an 18 to early 30s kind of demographic, of which Discord users, about 75% of them fall into that demographic. And from my research, over 30% of all 18 to 30-year-olds in the US are in Discord already. So it's a platform that they're familiar with. And it also, I think, from an attraction standpoint, it tells our younger generation that we're not a Facebook industry, right? We can be a Discord
Yep.
industry, if you will.
Yeah.
So I think there's even just the image of it is like, oh, this industry is a little bit more up to date. They're in Discord on it. So Discord is used pretty heavily by a lot of gamers. A lot of crypto
Yep.
people are in there. And I'm in a number of different, watch communities and BMX communities and some other things. But it's a social media platform. But the biggest difference I've noticed from Discord versus other social media platforms is like everybody acts like a professional in there. There doesn't seem to be the name calling, the finger pointing. It's people are there to help one another. And I find that refreshing. And I think that our certainly that demographic I'm looking at will find that refreshing as well. And so those are a few reasons. I can also set up where I can give I can invite those tool equipment product makers into Discord quite easily. Getting them set up isn't always the easiest, because they're closer to our age than they are to the 18-year-olds age in a lot of cases, of course. But so
And
we
you've got a pretty lengthy list of equipment folks and companies that are in there currently, correct? You want to give like
yeah.
a quick list of like who's all in there at this point?
Yeah, I've got 3M is in there. Ryan from 3M and Sean's working on getting in there. I've got Cam Auto and working on getting Caroliner and Select and Chief and Lower Fuser and paint manufacturers. BASF is already in there. I've got Honda in there and Toyota in there. So I'm continuing to add more and more people all the time. And what I do is, so once they're in there, I can assign them the role of Toyota or assign them the role of 3M, so that when they answer a question, they know it's coming from somebody that technician knows that, oh, this is from Ryan at 3M. Like this isn't just, again, Jason and Joel that are talking about, use
Right.
this
Yep.
adhesive. It's Ryan, the one of their service engineers is saying, like, in this situation, this is how you do that. Like what better way to go about that than that? And same thing with, I think about the tools and equipment that are in there. And so often, like, I buy a piece of equipment off of a truck, or I buy a piece of equipment at my local paint distributor, and then when I have a problem with it, like, I don't have anybody to contact. Well, if I can
Yeah.
talk to Carliner or ProSpot or Miller or whomever, like, again, I'm getting the information directly from the people that build the tools and equipment and train on the materials and write the OEM procedures. And it's a way, and it's the first way ever for a technician to directly interact with the people that build those tools and equipment. And when I see the Seans and the Ryans from 3M at an event, there are technicians around. Now, and so technicians don't have access to them. Through Back Bay, through the Discord server, now technicians will have access to this fleet of experts from these organizations that can help them with their repairs. And the other thing I've come to learn, and you and I haven't even talked about this, is and I think we'll dive into a little bit more here as we talk more. But I originally kind of launched Back Bay as like this technical support assistance kind of hotline, if you will, with some also outside influences. So I've got some financial stuff. Well, what's a Roth IRA and how do we start? So I want these, again, I think
Yeah.
about a small independent
Great
technician,
idea.
small
Yeah.
independent that doesn't have like a lot of financial literacy, perhaps. Like I want to give them some tools as well. But every time you're in there and you're interacting, you're learning. It's micro
Right.
learning, and so I didn't want when I launched Collision Pro Assist, like I didn't want to get into developing curriculum per se. I didn't want to. That's my past. I didn't
Somebody
want to
else's job.
develop
Yeah.
curriculum,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I
Yep.
want it to be technical support, but the more I thought about it, I've come to realize that by providing it, if you've got a question on how do I use this piece of equipment and I answer that question or ProSpot answers that question, that's education. There's learning taking
Yes.
place in there. And we've always thought about learning and training as like an event. It's a 15-minute online course, or it's a 3-hour classroom, or it's a 4-day hands-on. And if it's a 3-minute micro learning, that's going to benefit me in the long run. Studies have, shown that retention is higher, engagement is higher. I think the satisfaction from a learner's perspective is higher. I think about myself, whether it's a collision repair class or in college or even in school, right? When you go like, no one gets to say like, hey, I get to go to training tonight. Like no one like gets excited about it, right? Like we've got a bad attitude going into it from day one. Like it's a burden. Like I gotta leave my house tonight. I gotta go to this class, or I gotta give up a Saturday for this class, or whatever that is. But if I've got a problem and I don't know what I'm doing and I can ask somebody and they give me an answer, like I'm happy now, right? Like there's a
Right.
learning experience that took place there with a satisfied customer. And so I'm slowly moving and positioning this more than just technical support, but I really want to embrace this micro learning and really grow that with the industry as well.
As you get more people to ask questions, get more responses, whether maybe it's something you're able to answer, or if it's coming directly from one of the equipment vendors that are part of it, it's that knowledge base is now locked into the Discord platform essentially. So if somebody can go and search for replacing or whatever they're doing in terms of part replacement, repair, hey, how did somebody do this previously? Maybe I can ask Discord via search and that information can pop up. If
Yeah.
Because now you're not necessarily affecting time, which is, like you say, nothing happens in this industry revenue wise without touch time. Nothing I've ever done necessarily drove revenue. I mean, I talk to people all day long, but if there's no hands on cars, there's nothing driving revenue. And if you're pulling people away to do some of these trainings, as you say, like their events for whether it's a day or 2 or 4, it's counterproductive. It's no touch time. And typically, a lot of your techs are flat rate and they're not making any money necessarily if they're not putting hands on vehicles. But now they're car side. Now they can easily do micro learning in maybe a matter of a few minutes and get a response or information that helps solve that immediate problem. We
Yeah.
live in a just in time world. I don't necessarily always need the information, but when I do need it, I need an easy path to grab it. And it's logical.
Yeah.
It's grassroots, right? You're focusing on the younger generation and meeting them. We talk a lot about this at Rev, is meeting where our folks are at and meeting them at that grassroots level, getting them engaged early on, getting them to understand that there's a level of sophistication in the industry, but there's also places that you can go and gather resources that give you the confidence to continue to learn and build and not go out to some of these other platforms where you may get less than better information or told not to do this in general, which you and I both know we need to continue to encourage people and drive ambition and not push people down because they may ask the wrong question or maybe whatever that is. And that's a whole other topic of conversation. We need to keep propping people up.
If you've ever felt like ADAS calibration is more paperwork than repair work, you're not alone. Rev was built for shops like yours. It automatically identifies what needs to be calibrated, saves your team hours per job, and creates documentation your insurer will actually accept. More accuracy, fewer missteps, and better reimbursement. See how it works at revhq.com. It might just become your favorite tool in the shop.
The other thing along with the education part of it, and this is one of the beefs I've had with traditional training, for 20 plus years. So this isn't new. I've been on this hill for a long time.
Yeah.
No two technicians anywhere in the world have the same training needs, right? Like
Exactly.
if
Yep.
technician A needs to know how to calibrate this adaptive cruise control module on this F-150, my training needs at that immediate moment are different than a person trying to align a blind spot sensor on an Elantra, right? Our needs are completely different, but yet we find ourselves in the same, advanced driver assistance class together and learning
Yep.
that, well, some vehicle makers this and some vehicle makers that. Like, that's not what I need to know. Like right now, I need to know, like, what do I need to do in this scenario? And again, I've been pushing for more vehicle, tool, equipment, product, scenario specific training for a long time. And again, I think that's what's wrong with our traditional approach to event focused training is we are going to develop a course on X and we need to put all of this content in there when the fact is that through Joel, through your experiences, you might need
Yep.
like 5 minutes of that content, but now you're giving up a night or a weekend or however long
Yep.
so you get that 5 minutes of content. But I can just give you that 5 minutes of content, and now you're gonna be happy. You're gonna retain that, and so I think that this micro learning is not only effective, but it also really we can tailor specifically to that individual technician's training needs. And it doesn't need to be cumbersome. I don't need to have this massive training path and like all this programming. It's like right now I need to know how to use this tool or prepare this material for this adhesive. Like that's all I need to know right now. And if I can keep
Yep.
that micro dosing of learning going on, like it's just I think it's a win for everybody involved.
I agree. I agree. So you mentioned a little bit about like ADOS. I know you've got some experience in the, obviously you've been around the industry long enough that this is not anything new to you by any stretch. Focusing on things potentially down the road with Skills USA in terms of developing some sort of class or curriculum or challenge remains to be seen. I think there's some great initiatives. There's a lot of buzz around it. It's going to be present in just about every vehicle coming here pretty soon,
Yeah.
right? There's regulation coming down. Obviously, there's substantial amount of cars coming into shops nowadays. Like, you were talking to, let's say, a younger technician, apprentice level, coming up through the grassroots phase of this. Like, what direction do you give them to try to understand ADAS? I mean, is it being able to identify sensors or where modules are at or proper placement or things like that? I mean, because I think there is a little bit of a differentiation of an ADAS technician versus a collision technician, but at someday they may be relatively, there may be some overlap there if I'm not mistaken. What would be your advice to somebody coming up through the ranks and you know, classify ADOS and somewhere in the skill set, between replacing sheet metal and fixing sheet metal and straightening frames and things like that? And where does ADOS sort of fall into that ledger?
Yeah, so I've got quite a few thoughts on this, as you can imagine. So
I
I
love
have
it.
been
Great.
talking about ADAS, for many years. ADAS is kind of what has allowed me to travel around the country and around the world and talk to collision repair professionals. Was my role at iCar was kind of that, that leading edge of technology, whether it's materials and advanced high strength steels or whether it be ADAS. And so I've been in that field for quite a while. I certainly don't have the as much experience as ADAS technicians do, but I've been talking about it for a long time. But um, from day one I was pushing for it, and no one ever listened to me, unfortunately. But I think that you mentioned the younger generation, like who better to do these types of repairs than the younger
Yep.
technician, right? I watch shops go like, well, I'm going to put my best technician on this. Like, no, don't put your best technician on it. Put your youngest technician on it, right? These digital natives were born with a tablet in their hand, right? Like,
Right.
why are we trying to give, why are we trying to assign a role of ADAS to an experienced technician when I've got, I think about someone a young kid that's a gamer that again, they're a digital native. They've got a tablet or a phone in their hands at all time. Like and they like cars. Like who better to target than them for? And we talk back to the technician attraction. Again, I think that's a huge opportunity for us to attract young technicians of like, you want to do something around automotive, but you don't want to, sand body filler and weld. This is a great opportunity. And to your point, every car is going to have it, right? Every vehicle is going to have some level of ADAS features in the pretty darn immediate future, right? Like the
Yep.
number of cars that don't is getting so small by the day, and the number of repairable cars that don't is even getting smaller, right? And so that's a huge opportunity. The other thing is, even if I don't want to do that, if I want to be, you know what, I want to be a structural person, I want to do that kind of, those types of things. I need to be aware of, again, where are those sensors? What are the requirements? If I take that bumper cover off, what's required? If I take that sensor off, what's required? And then it ties back into the vehicle structure, right? It's not just the position of that sensor or the position of that camera, but where's the steering suspension? Where are my alignment angles? Where's the structure of the vehicle at? Because if the whole vehicle is pointed in the wrong direction, and now the camera or the sensor is aligned with the vehicle, it's not aligned with where it should be looking, essentially. And so I think, even if I don't have any interest in working on ADAS, I need to be acutely aware of some of the considerations around it, because what I'm doing is going to impact that. And if I'm a painter, that too is going to affect it, right? So if I've got a bumper cover, a rear bumper cover that I'm refinishing over a blind spot monitor sensor, like, I may be adversely impacting that system. So there's a level of knowledge for whether it's a refinish technician, whether it's a structural technician or a non-structural technician or an ADAS technician. It's part of our lives, and we need to be aware of it. And we need to know the considerations for it. And if I do A, what else do I have to do? What are the results? That if I disconnect the battery, what am I going to have to recalibrate? If I remove the sensor, I replace the quarter panel, like, that's critical information that is going to, that's going to, that our customers are relying on us to make sure that when they give them the vehicle back, all those systems are performing properly. And then, even from a standpoint of, if I don't do any ADAS work in my shop, and I need to at least be able to at least have enough knowledge about it, so that when my vendor says, well, you need this, this, and this, because, like, I can ask, well, why is that? And, like, that doesn't make sense to me because the damage is here, and have those conversations at least, and be able to speak intelligently about it. And that's another critical piece. I think that even if I don't work on it, and that's been my argument for glass for years, people go, so, well, I don't do glass repairs, so I don't know anything about stationary glass. No, you absolutely need to know, because you need to know how to prepare that pinch weld, and you need to know this. And so it's kind of, we need to know, at least have some level of intelligence around that, so we can ask the right questions, if nothing else.
I think that's a great way to put it. Is it's full knowledge base, right? It's going to be having that level of understanding, and then it's a matter of communicating, right? It's maybe something goes unnoticed or uncovered during that preliminary estimate, or even during teardown, and it's now communicating between production managers to technicians back to the estimator that's handling that file. So it's really kind of comes full circle. So understanding where those sensors are, what the response were for, but then getting that sort of that grassroots, again, sort of that knowledge base from the younger generation, that you're, like you say, they've grown up with these things in their hands, certainly have a shorter path to understanding, like, exactly how all this stuff works, and, like, being able to decipher the technology and things like that. So
Understand how the vehicle's supposed to operate, right? What's the difference between lane departure warning and lane keep assist? Like, from a post-repair inspection, if I'm driving the vehicle, how do I know if the vehicle's reacting as it's supposed to, depending on what the system is? And you have to know what the system's supposed to do, so you can validate that it is doing what it's supposed to.
exactly. My question is, as let's say a younger student, or I'm interested in vehicles, and I've got some thoughts around, like, getting into collision repair and being a technician. What are some of the skill sets, or what are some of the things that would make for a good technician, to get them on the right path, obviously, from resource and getting them set up for success? What does that what does that typically look like in your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they need to be good with their hands, of course. They're gonna be working with their hands on a daily basis. I think there's a level of creativity and artistry that I think goes a bit unrecognized from time to time. Whether it's painting, or whether it's repairing a dent on a fender. I think there's a certain level of artistry that's required there. Humility is a big one for me, and asking questions, and not making assumptions that, I did this last week, so now I'll do it this week. I think there's, confidence is good, but overconfidence can be dangerous from time to time. willingness to ask questions, or just a general interest, I think, in vehicle technology and new technology, and vehicles continue to evolve, and that's one thing that I've always appreciated. Like, I've got a thirst for like knowledge and like trying to learn new things, and whether it's materials or whether it's ADAS or whether it's a new technology that's coming out. I think just having a general interest in like new technology is kind of a benefit to helping from a collision repair standpoint. And then certainly just, I think, it's just the tenacity to stick with it, and know that there's going to be obstacles and you're going to overcome them. And like everything with time, you'll continue to learn and progress and polish your skills, but still remaining humble throughout that journey, and recognizing that, you don't know everything. You're not ever going to know everything. And it's okay to ask questions. And back is a good place to ask questions,
Love that. Yeah.
just I think just a general persuasion of wanting to do things properly, and wanting to take something that's been, that has negatively impacted someone's life, right? When they're in a collision, it wasn't a good day for them. And we know how people feel about their cars. People don't feel about their cars today. There's a 2025 Malibu doesn't ignite the same passion as a 68 Camaro, certainly. But people still love their cars, right? And now my car's been damaged, and I want it to, when I get that back, I want it to feel like my car. I want it to perform like my car. I want that familiarity with that's there. And if it doesn't drive properly, or if I have other issues, or I had a bad experience, like, I think from a technician that wants to get into it, getting rid of alleviating those problems for a customer is just a kind of in the back, got to be in your back of your mind at some point, that like, I'm doing this for, somebody's family, and putting them back in somebody's car that's been damaged, and helping them get kind of restore how they feel about, their daily driver.
Do you think consumers have certain expectations, obviously, when their car gets fixed? They drop the car off and assume it goes behind the curtain, it comes back, and they don't know what they don't know. And truth be told, before I got in the industry, I didn't know anything either. Obviously, as a consumer, I just figured all shops were built the same. My question, I think, or my statement, curious what your thoughts are, is, as consumer demand increases for ADAS, sophistication, vehicle technology that makes them more safe, knowing there a difference between which shop you choose, right? Because just about every state, you can pick where you want to get your car fixed after an accident. Would you recommend, and I'm curious what your thoughts are, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, showing a customer where they're going to get their car fixed, not necessarily just in the lobby or the estimating bay, walking them through, like, this is the investment we've made in technology. This is the investment we've made with our team. This is what our shop floor looks like. This is where you can feel confident getting your car fixed. I know a lot of shops do really, really great work and probably aren't necessarily the most pristine looking, but are we getting to a point where that could potentially be something of interest for shops to look at? Like, we've got to really give our customers a level of confidence other than just a handshake and a promise that we'll work with their insurance company. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's a tricky one. I've been in shops, and I've seen how some shops operate, and I don't know that I want a customer back there. I do think some customers just, they don't care as much about their vehicles as others do, so they just kind of drop it off, and assume it's going to get done properly. But I do think that the general motoring public, with the internet as it is today, and with social media, I think they're more savvy than ever. They know, a lot more of them at least know that when they're going to be looking for, they want adaptive cruise control, or they want automatic emergency braking, or they want, some type of level of autonomous driving features, because they've done the research. They are younger, so maybe they're a little bit more technologically advanced, so they are thinking about that. Um, I don't know that they necessarily want to see how the sausage is made, but they want some level of confidence that how to repair their vehicle properly, and that the calibration are going to be done properly. The vehicle is going to the advanced safety systems are going to be designed as necessary. If should I ever need them again, it's going to see that
Yeah,
vehicle in front of me, and it's going to stop when it needs to stop. I don't know that bringing them in the back of the shop and giving them a tour is going to be that, but I think letting people know the processes that you use, and that you're using OEM information, that you're using, the proper targets, and you're using the properly trained experts, and having those, people look for those certificates on the wall, right? That's what
I
they're
agree.
all
Yeah,
looking
I
for.
think they do too. Yeah.
I also think that shops through social media can do a better job of, kind of promoting and getting involved in their community and getting engaged and building a rapport with their local community. I think those things matter to consumers, and um, not necessarily traditional advertising, but just again, being involved and letting people know that you're there to support them. When you don't need them or when they don't need you, so that you're also there when they do need you to do something. I think is something that we can,
I,
help
I
this.
tend to agree with you as far as we don't necessarily bring the folks back in the back of the shop to show them all the things, but maybe it's better advocacy on social media, better awareness around if we're OEM certified for certain brands,
Yep.
not taking those things necessarily for granted, shop or what have you. Making sure that we're mentioning those things because again, I think people they're gravitating to that stuff, making sure that reviews are obviously an important piece of it as well.
If I was in the collision repair industry, I would probably still be doing some type of education. I'd probably be working for maybe like a youth development nonprofit organization of some sort. I think that's why I'm so heavily involved in Skills USA. I think education and youth development is important, and identifying future leaders in our industry is important. I'm also involved in a board capacity at a local nonprofit organization here in Green Bay. And I really enjoy helping kids kind of grow and seeing them, seeing them get excited about things and potential avenues for their career, whether it's automotive, whether it's something completely different. But like, that spark, I love seeing that spark in kids and seeing them to aspire to do something and be something. And I like to support them. I want to help the youth kind of find their path. And I would love that if it would be in the collision repair industry. Again, I want to see some improvements on our industry. I want to treat our technicians better and give them more opportunities to grow. But this industry's been incredible to me. I've met some wonderful people from all around the world, and I've got to go to places I never would have had the opportunity to go, and that all just happened because I've been, my grandfather opened a body shop in 1939, right, and the rest is history, as it were. But yeah, if I wasn't doing collision repair, I would be trying to do something that would inspire youth to kind of to find their path and help them, and probably in some type of a nonprofit scenario in that case.
You mentioned a couple improvements that you would recommend across the industry outside of obviously the technician standpoint. Can you pick a few that you would focus on as far as improvements if you had the ability to influence those?
Yeah, I say, yeah, so first of all, again, is that better technician support. We just don't do enough for our technicians, and that's what I'm hoping to do with Collision Pro Assist. I see a lot of the arguments going on in the industry and a lot of the politics, and like none of that helps fix cars. None of that ensures that when I give the keys back to the customer, that vehicle is going to go down the road properly. Like that's all I care about, right? I want that car to function properly. I spent a long time at iCar and I left iCar, but the vision of complete, safe, quality repairs, that's still what drives me every single day. And I think if the industry would spend more time focused on complete, safe, quality repairs, then the industry would be a whole lot better place. And the back and forth and the bickering and the negotiations, like I get that it's kind of, necessary business, but like, gosh, if we would just take a fraction of that effort and apply it to complete, safe, quality repairs, like imagine the difference that we can make on a daily basis.
Completely agree. Yeah, it just seems like it's a futile process at this particular point. But if you could spend 5 minutes with the shop owner, with let's just say every shop owner, what advice would you give them at this point? What would you
Yeah,
love to
well,
tell
again,
them?
aside from the better technician support, I just think we have so many kind of old school shop owners, that like this is how I do things, right? This is the path, like, and I was one, I wasn't a shop owner and I wasn't a tech, but I've always been like, well, this is how we do this. This is the proper way to do this. And like I forced myself over the last couple of years to like be more open to different things. And I think if a shop owner, manager, employees, whomever would be more open to trying new things and looking at things differently and putting a different lens on it and just getting creative, again, I think that would benefit them greatly. We've been I think about a shop that's been having the same fight with the same insurance company for 30 years or whatever, right? Like it's never going to end. So maybe try something different, try a different approach. So get creative. I don't know what exactly that is, but there's so many different tools out there. There's so many different, and not talking about like hand tools. I'm just saying like whether it's software or hardware or conversations or resources or whatever. There's so many tools out there that could help me do my job better, if I would just be open to changing a little bit. And I think that'd be incredibly eye-opening and enlightening for a lot of people in the industry if they would just put their ego aside for a second and look at it from a different perspective and try something new and maybe surprise themselves. And with Collision Pro Assist and Back Bay and even Skills USA, like I've been really trying to focus on and my board membership as well at this nonprofit, like really trying to focus more on, I don't want to say thinking outside the box. That's not a big fan of that term necessarily, but just being more open to new ideas and new concepts and new ways of doing things and try. And if it doesn't work, then go back to the old way. But if it works, well, maybe you've got a solution that's going to help propel you to bigger and better things.
That's great. I love it. Appreciate it. We'll get you out on this. Give us the website for Collision Pro Assist.
CollisionProAssist.com,
Awesome.
and there'll be links in there to Back Bay. I do offer a free 7-day trial of Back Bay. It's that you can go directly to WHOP.com/Back Bay trial. It's not one of those we got to put a credit card in and it automatically charges 7 days later. No credit card required. You register through WOP and then connect the WOP account to your Discord account, and you got 7-day access to it. Get in there, get involved, get engaged, and again, if it's something that is going to be suitable for your business and for you as a technician, love to have you as a subscriber. If it's not, then that tells me again that I've got work to do and we need to make some improvements and continue to move it forward. But again, Back Bay is built for technicians. It's being built by technicians. I'm working on a meeting right now with some of our Back Bay members to get together and talk about what types. It's only been available for a month and a half here or so, but I want to get some technicians that are using it, and I want to start making some improvements. What's missing, I had a kind of a hierarchy laid out that I'm not sure is the best hierarchy, but we can easily modify. Another benefit of Discord is we can move things around pretty quickly and pretty easily in there. I want this to be designed for technicians by technicians. I'm just facilitating it, but it's designed for the technicians, so I need the technicians' input onto what needs to be there and what doesn't need to be there, and what other features do we need to add, because ultimately I want this to be a technician driven place where they can go and communicate. And again, those technical questions I want to be mainly answered by the tool equipment product maker subject matter experts. But I've also got an area in there for peer-to-peer interaction for technician to technician. I've got an area for the students and the instructors to talk to one another that they can't talk to the industry and talk to technicians. So I've got to kind of separate it that way. But I want people in there and I want to build it for them. And so I need their input. So yeah, utilize that 7-day trial, and there's feedback mechanisms in there. I'm looking for feedback on it and improvements, and what can I do to make it more attractive to shops and technicians and better support them is ultimately the goal.
Excellent. Well, we will certainly add a link to Collision Pro Assist and also that free trial through the Back Bay in our recording here as well to the audience. So
And I do also want to recognize Rev and thank you for I'm a member of your forum, and that for me was one of the things that gave me the confidence that, you know what, technicians can behave, industry people can behave in here. We can act like professionals in here, and if executed properly, we can be successful. So honestly, like Rev has got a pretty big part in the launch of Backbee, because I modeled a portion of it off after what you're already doing over there. So thank you for that.
no, our pleasure, and glad it was sort of a good guiding light for you. And yeah, it's been a great experience for us. Certainly feel free to put any posts in there as far as where you can help out with Collision Pro Assist, and got a lot of shops in there currently looking for answers to a lot of questions. Obviously, want to say thank you, Jason. Again, appreciate it. It's been great chatting with you. For our audience, again, thank you for tuning in. We will continue to have additional podcasts here rolling out in the next few weeks. But again, I just want to say thank you to Jason. Any final thoughts or anything else, sir, before I let you go?
No, I just appreciate you doing this and giving me the opportunity to talk to everybody. And I look forward to seeing everybody in the back bay.
Sounds good. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The cars entering your shop today are computers on wheels. Miss a mandatory calibration on these high-tech systems, and you're risking both your bottom line and your customer safety. At Rev, we know that putting safe cars on the road and getting reimbursed requires the right data and documentation.
Rev is an AI-driven platform that allows us to upload RO, a repair order, and have it scrub through the services that we're performing.
Then, Rev automatically pulls information on your vehicle's required calibrations.
You simply click on the link. It takes you right to the manufacturer's pages, descriptions, what is required, how to do the adjustments. It is absolutely unbelievable.
Rev in general has not only given me the confidence to diagnose vehicles for ADAS calibrations, but it's also given me more knowledge.
It gives you the correct information on things you potentially never would have charged for.
And secure insurance reimbursements with confidence.
Makes task conveying this information to the insurers much easier, especially when our estimators understand the why behind the calibration.
And streamline complex billing configuration with Rev's invoicing feature and customizable rate builder.
They allow me to adjust and remove the operations that I may need.
No matter what stage of the calibration process, with Rev, empower your team every step of the way.
One of the unexpected benefits from Rev is actually their ability to help me plan and structure and schedule my day. Not only does it save me time, but it saves me a lot of headaches.
Ensure each vehicle leaves your shop safe, compliant, and ready for the road. Lead the future of ADAS calibration with Rev. Book your demo today.